Hi, you guys. I promised my friend Jen that I would tell you guys how to make the green tomato salsa that I was talking about, because it's gonna frost soon. So, right, so you guys got your green tomatoes out, right? Out of the garden. Now, we're basically, I've already blended some of them, and I'll show you what that looks like. This was about, if you need to go to the farmer's market tomorrow morning, this is about 5 of these, okay? Maybe 6 because there's space in there. So I don't know how much that is in pounds, but basically, I mean, you saw the picture maybe of the colander, and this was like, you know, overflowing. So what do we know about canning? Everything has to be clean, very clean. So I've washed my tomatoes, I've washed my peppers, I've washed the cilantro, I've washed the green onions, and you know how gross they get. And why do we do that? Well, I'm gonna can it, right? And so we talked about that a little bit in the past. And so like the jars go in this little thing and you lower it in the water. I have my giant crab pot over here boiling, right? And because that big pot takes forever to come to a boil. And I don't know if you can hear it, but my new dishwasher is really loud. So in the dishwasher are the jars that I'm gonna put the salsa in. Now, why are they in the dishwasher? Well, partly just to get them clean, but partially then they get hot, and you want your jars hot because it will keep them from cracking in the water, in the boiling water. I mean, they're supposed to anyway, but you know, it happens sometimes. If the hot salsa goes in the hot jar and the hot water, you're less likely to have any issues. And it makes the seal happen faster. You want everything to be hot because the thing that seals them is the vacuum effect, right? When you open a jar of jelly and the little button in the middle pops up, it's undoing the vacuum seal, right? So you're creating a vacuum seal by putting hot air with a little, you know, there's a little headspace in that jar. And as that hot air condenses, because remember, hot air is bigger, right? And then it contracts and it sucks the lid down, and that's what creates your seal. And then you have it, you know, for a long time. You can keep it for a year or whatever. So essentially this is what we're doing. I've got that. I've got some of these in here. I put them in the blender, right? And just what do you need to know about blenders, right? We have a visitation. You need to make sure there's some liquid in there. And then the other thing about canning is whatever is going in a jar for preservation needs to be high acid, high sugar, high salt. That's why tomato sauce, tomatoes, jam, that's why those kinds of things work. So, and my limes I only had a couple of limes, so I might have to add some lemon juice or white vinegar, but I'm going to just cook. I'm just blending and cooking the tomatoes and the peppers together. I'm gonna add the green onions and the cilantro later, just to keep it kind of fresh. And you wanna put some salt in here, about a tablespoon of salt, okay? And that's kind of it. So I'm not even gonna simmer this for very long. I'm just gonna get this just cooked, kind of like if we were doing frozen peas, right? You don't need to cook them very long. We just want this to come just to the boil so that it kind of cooks off anything that didn't come off in the washing. And don't just use water, use one of those veggie sprays, right? And especially if they're not the vegetables that you grew, because you don't know what's on them. I mean, the Streptomyces bacteria is fine. That's the thing that in the soil that makes the petrichor smell when it rains. That's fine. You just don't know what else might be on it if you didn't grow it. That's all I'm going to say about that. So what do we need? We need, I had 4 of these nice Anaheim peppers. We're going to do a whole bunch of scallions, whatever, how many that is. But you know, the one in the rubber band. I took them out to wash them. And then a whole bunch of cilantro. and maybe some garlic, but we might not need the garlic. And there's no oil, okay? We're not going to saute anything. And that's it. And so when those come out and they're hot and the hot salsa goes in and I'm making dinner for the children, I'm going to put it in the jars and I'm going to boil the jars. And they need to process. When you see that in a recipe, that's what that means. They need to boil for 15 minutes, okay? And then you take them out and then they go boop, 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 and then you know they're sealed, okay? And that's all there is to it. Oh, and when I was cutting up the peppers earlier, and I'll show you this too, just remember the seeds and the ribs are what make it hot, okay? So if you don't want it super hot, take the seeds and the ribs out. If you like it hot, leave the seeds in, okay? I kind of go halfsies because I like it medium. So, because I didn't, I have a friend from California and we get hot sauce every time we eat together. Well, I have a lot of friends from California, but one of my friends from California, every time we eat together, she gets hot sauce. And I'm not acclimated to it. But these are great. Anaheim peppers are a good happy medium. You could use poblano peppers. And here, I'll show you this too. These are sort of gradients of ripeness. I'm going to keep this guy because once it's started to turn, it'll keep turning. And I didn't really get a lot of tomatoes because of my move. And same with these guys. So that's it. That's that. We will, I guess if you have any questions, ask me in the comments, okay? Have a good night.